So we see that the first wave of Afrikaners, you know, white people from South Africa, have made it into the United States thanks to Donald Trump signing an executive order saying they can come on over here because they're being persecuted and deleted at an alarming rate. But this does not, as you probably can imagine, doesn't come without controversy. So what we're going to try to do here is get to the bottom of it, see if we can get an understanding from all sides. And then I think I'm going to tell you guys why I think you should not sleep on just these few dozen Afrikaners coming into the country. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And when you do subscribe, hit the notification bell so every time I drop a video, you will be the first to know about it. Let's watch this clip.
Dozens of white South Africans arrived at Dulles International Airport today.
And it is the first wave of Afrikaners resettled here in the United States under a controversial refugee program that was launched by the Trump administration. Fox 5's Tom Fitzgerald joining us live from Dulles International. Fitz, who are these folks and why are they here again?
Good question.
Yeah, a lot of questions from folks as this was announced today. You might remember it was back on February 7th that President Trump signed one of his executive orders, but that one had to do with racial discrimination, he says, in the country of South Africa. This is aimed at South Africa's black-led government, and the Trump administration claims that white South Africans who are known as Afrikaners have been the subject of this. So today, this airlift from South Africa to Dulles International Airport was the first group of what we have been told is Afrikaner refugees arriving here at Dulles today. Now, administration officials say that these Afrikaners.
Now, I know they said that they want to, what Trump say, bring in those who are going to benefit the country. I'm looking at 51. Well, how many people they say? They say it was 59. First, say one story say 49, one story say 59. Who knows? It's just a handful came on a plane, and just on appearances alone, the question I have is how are these people going to benefit the United States? Because other countries, we got people who want to go to other countries and get citizenship. And them countries won't allow you in unless you got some kind of business, unless you're going to bring money into the country pretty much immediately. They're not, unless you're going to do that, they're really not going to allow you in unless you got the change. So you remember what did Trump say? He wanted people to come in. He's going to give them like, if you give them like 5,000 or 10,000, like expedited green card. Not me, 5 million. I'm sorry. Either 5 million or 10 million, he'll expedite a green card, if I'm not mistaken. I wonder, does each one of these people out of this 59, the group of 59 have, gave 5 million or $10 million to the country? I just want to know.
Those are the victims of race-based persecution. And federal officials today from the State Department and Homeland Security pledged at the airport as they arrived after a 12-hour flight. The U.S. government would help them with housing, furniture, food, everything they needed to relocate here to the United States.
Is it the same thing that the Democrats did with the illegal migrants coming from all over the world? And then you turn around and you welcome these people. But I guess they're vetted, I don't know.
The president made it clear that Afrikaners in South Africa who were the victims of unjust racial discrimination would be welcome to come to the United States. And he's now delivering on that promise.
Now, it's funny because I could have sworn Donald Trump was against anything about race. Remember, DEI, get rid of that. Don't want anything based on race. But now there's a country who he says is doing things based on race. You want to welcome them in because you feel sorry for them. I don't get it. And this guy you see here, I saw this video, majority of this video, like play through when these people arrived. And he said that his either grandfather or great grandfather came to America like in 1920, 1930, while Hitler was in reign. I think his grandfather was Dutch. And his grandfather came here to went to South America first, and ended up here, and that's how he's here. So that just goes to show you, let y'all know that a lot of them folk are immigrants. Their people are immigrants. But when we say that a lot of us was already here before they got here, look at you like you're crazy. But when you do people's history, think about it. If you go like the ancestry.com and things like that, most of them folk can trace their lineage back to European countries. But when we trace our lineage, amazingly, most of it stops here. And they'll try to say, well, it's because you was, brought over here on slave ships across the ocean for months at a time, and all y'all survived, millions of y'all survived. So that's where you came from. But could it just be possible that we were already here? So that's why you can't really find anything outside of the United States?
And Fitz, there is some controversy over this refugee flight today. So what are critics of the flight saying at this point?
Well, while the president signed this executive order for the Afrikaners on February 7th, you might remember before that, the very first day of this administration, the president effectively shut down the U.S. refugee program. So a lot of these refugee advocates from around the world are saying, look, if you're going to make an exception for these Afrikaners, why aren't you letting refugees in from around at other hot spots throughout the world? And, incidentally, Angie, it's not uncommon for a foreign government to deny that people who are leaving their country are refugees. However, the South African president, vehemently denied that these people are refugees. In fact, he says they do not meet the standard of being a refugee, and they are just not going along with the changes in the country. However, you talk to Afrikaners and they will say they have been the subject of home invasions, of violence. People have had their farmland taken away. So there is a big difference here of opinion as to, whether or not these people are or not refugees.
Funny is, you heard what he said, that if you talk to some Afrikaners, they say they're being persecuted. Just remember that.
Bottom line is, though, they are here and they are going to be the first wave of future flights the United States is going to bring in to the U.S.
And remember what he just said there. Keep that in your mind. This is the first of many future flights to the U.S. Not just these 59 people are going to be it. But like I said, we're going to get into why I feel you should not sleep on these first 59. But before we get to the topic, before we get to the story, I wanted to play one more video. And this one here is from South Africans who are critical of these quote unquote refugees. We want to hear what they got to say about this plane trip. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. When you do subscribe, hit the notification bell so every time I drop a video, you will be the first to know about it. Let's hit this. Ooh, vendor, what is that? Is that seafood? What is that?
I don't believe in running away from problems. We've got a lovely country and we make it work. And especially Afrikaans people, I think since we came here, we always made it work. It doesn't matter.
See, he's an Afrikaan. He's what he just said. And he said, since we came here, which means that he is not originally from South Africa. His people are not originally from South Africa. This was Afrikaners are from. They think they're all Dutch. But just keep listening.
What happened, in the past and so on, we always look up and just make things work. And so my point of leaving South Africa, I've been all over the world and always come back. And this is definitely the country of milk and honey. We're very blessed in South Africa.
So they benefit a lot. Man, why this sounds just like America? Just take away the accent and it sounds just like saying the same thing white America says.
The lifestyle we're living with all the drama going on, it's still one of the best countries in the world to live in.
They're going to have booties in America from now on. That's one thing.
I feel nothing. I'm happy for them. They must go back home. That's where they come from. They must go back home and seek refugee at home. How many foreigners do we have in South Africa that comes each and every year to seek refugee in South Africa? So why must I feel something about them going back home where they belong? They must go back.
I can't agree with you because America is not their home. Maybe this person doesn't know exactly where they are going, but their home is in European countries, not American. Just like a lot of them folk that live here, their home, if you want to get technical about it, is in European countries.
Back home and seek refugee at home. I actually don't feel anything. I'm actually happy for them. They must go back home where they belong. I feel absolutely nothing at all.
If you got a business,
America, maybe they can help us one day, but we should be helping ourselves right now. That's the only way. We can't run away from our problems because they will always be there. If you run away, you're just leaving it behind, but then you still have kids, you have family, you have friends, you're still in these things. So that means you're still involved as well. Even if you take your personal, like if you take yourself out of it, but there's still somebody there that you know, that you love, maybe that you have worked with. Even these people, I'm sure they're even leaving businesses behind just to go there because they are tired of what's happening around.
that's a good take. That even if you leave, you got family, friends, relatives that are still there. So he's saying you still got a part of you is going through them problems, which makes a lot of sense. So he's saying like, why leave? Don't run off because you can't escape it forever. And I can understand that. I can feel that because you can think about that. Even if you live in the United States somewhere and you had enough of what's going on in your little town, so you want to go to another town, but you're still in America, so you're still in the system, and you can always go back and forth if need be. So it's not really on the level of these Afrikaners and how they just leaving like, what does it say, 12-hour flight? That's I thought that's kind of quick. I didn't know it was that short. I thought it'd be longer than that, but it's not on their level. But still, you would leave and go and try to make a better way for yourself and maybe your family, but then you can bring them with you. Now that could be a different take. I'm gonna go make a life and then bring you up here with me so we can all have it. But then why not just take everybody with you? But like I say, it's only 59, so that's gonna be interesting when we get into the story.
During the tension and the ceasefire in Ukraine, the president.
In line with the international definition, they do not qualify for that status, according to us. And there is no persecution of white African and South Africans in South Africa.
Tell them that there's no persecution of white farmers. How do they respond? Like,
but there is no data at all that links that is persecution of white South Africans or white Africans, to be more particular, who are farmers. And the police statistics, which are going to share and release, don't break it. In fact, more farm dwellers are also affected by crime. And also, white farmers do get affected by crime, just like any other South African.
So he's basically saying that the white Afrikaners are not being persecuted in crimes being committed against them more than anybody else. Matter of fact, it's probably less than the average African. I guess they didn't want to answer his question. I guess they didn't want to hear what he had to say. So anyway, so now let's get into this Wall Street Journal article. I tell y'all all the time, get you a subscription to a Wall Street Journal, get you a subscription to like your local newspaper, because newspapers go into detail, even the Daily Mail online. But newspapers go into a lot of detail and they try to be unbiased as possible. And I picked the Wall Street Journal because this is, it's an American newspaper, and they actually, like I said, gave an unbiased account of what's going on. So let's get into it. This is from WSJ.com, and it reads: Trump is giving refugee status to white South Africans, but many don't want to come. Why is that? Why do you think they don't want to come? Let's see. Relative wealth and generations of history dissuade many Afrikaners from claiming Trump's offer. Quote, "This is my country," unquote. And that's pretty much the bottom line to this as to why you don't have a whole lot of them trying to come over here, because they live in good. They have. Let's just read so we just prove it real quick. This says, this is from Settler, South Africa. Afrikaners, white South Africans long reviled as the architects of a racist state, are now being recast by Donald Trump as the victims of one. What they call this, it's something they got going on right now where this lady got film calling a young kid. I don't care if he's 5, 15, 10, 12, whatever. He's a little kid, and she's being a bully, and she called him the N-word because she was mad and said, well, if that's the way he want to act, that's what I'm going to call him. Okay, then they got something called black something. I don't know if it's being tired. Something about being tired. I can't think of the dang on me term. Something silly. Because you got these white folks now saying, oh, we're just tired of everything being racist. Y'all, everything y'all say is about race. So now we're just going to start saying the N-word since you want to call me racist. And it's like, I'm like, nah, that's not how that works. It doesn't. The media may put it out there like that, like we just holler racism on everything. But I mean, that's what the country was built on, right? When I tell a story of when I was like in 3rd grade, shoot, I wasn't grown. I wasn't no journalist. There was no internet. I wasn't in social media. And me and a friend of mine are playing at the school, and we see these 2 white kids. I don't know if we was playing with them, trying to talk to them or whatever. They like teenagers. We were just being friendly, little dumb, little black kids. And one of the dudes called me the N-word and pulled out a pocket knife. Well, no, he put out a knife. And me and my homeboy looked at each other and took off. We didn't say nothing racist to that guy. So this whole thing about, being black, being tired that black people call everything racist, you got to miss me with that. You got to miss me with that, because I haven't lived that. I don't understand that side. I understand how people have came at me being racist since I was a kid, and I did nothing to these folks. You understand what I'm saying? But anyway, let's continue. The U.S. president has accused South Africa's black majority government of plotting to seize white farms and failing to stop violent attacks on innocent, disfavored minority farmers. His top advisor, white South African-born billionaire Elon Musk, an Afrikaner, has accused some of the country's politicians of actively promoting a white genocide. It's amazing. One of the richest men in the world crying about something that he can probably fix himself with the money that he has. If it's a problem. You see what I'm saying? It's amazing. They want, even the rich want other people to fix their problems that they can probably fix themselves. Trump, who has centered his presidency on the promise to evict millions of migrants from the U.S., is clearing away obstacles so that Afrikaners who want to immigrate enjoy a smooth path to American citizenship. Let me tell you what, I'm starting to realize what Trump's problem going to be when it comes to the immigration thing. Instead of saying he's going to deport millions and millions of immigrants, which I mean, that's what he won on, right? One of the key factors that he won on, though. He probably should say, look, we're going to round up all the ones that, like I say, came over here legal, but the ones that's committed crimes. Our primary focus right now is to get the ones that are violent offenders, that are criminals on the run. We're going to try to get them. And if just so happen we find some that are here illegally and who probably haven't been a detriment to society, but they are here illegal, we'll still round them up too, and they'll go through the due process. Say that makes a little more sense. So then when you get ready to bring these white folk in from South Africa, you can say, well, hey, we went through the process, we vetted these people, and they're going through real problems now, quote unquote real problems in that South Africa. So that's why we're bringing them here. you might can win some souls on that one. But the way that it's going, and a lot of things that Trump is doing right now in the Republican Party, I can see them losing seats, political seats, in an abundance come midterms, and then when the election come, as long as the Democrats stay quiet and don't ruffle no feathers and all that, I think they may just get the next president, unless something that Trump is doing right now, and by the time he's out, it makes sense to everybody and it actually works in the favor of all Americans, no matter what your race or ethnicity is. If that happens, then Republicans may win again. But if it doesn't, like the way things are going and what they're seeing, I mean, I think if the election was tomorrow and if anybody in the Democrats ran, I think they would probably win right now with everything is going on. On Monday, several dozen Afrikaners arrived in the U.S. on a chartered flight that landed at Dulles International Airport outside Washington. The first group granted refugee status under Trump's executive order. The white South Africans were welcomed by Deputy Secretary of Homeland Security Troy Edgar and Deputy Secretary of State Christopher Landau, who said the people told him of harrowing stories of the violence they faced in South Africa. It's amazing, but you got people with melanin in their skin, holler about these same type of problems all over the world, and you didn't welcome them in like this. In response to a reporter's questions, Landau said the president paused the broader refugee program for other groups of people because it wasn't clear they had been carefully vetted. Okay. But that the administration could make exceptions where it was determined that it was in the interest of the U.S. How is this in the interest of the U.S.? I will tell you guys shortly. Ahead of the Afrikaners' arrival, Trump on Monday said he was expediting their entry because they were being killed. It's a genocide that's taking place. However, now check this out. Remember, this is Wall Street Journal writing this, so I want y'all to pay attention because I don't think they will lie about this. I don't think they're being biased. However, relatively few South African farmers say they want to immigrate. Typically, Afrikaners are wealthier than average. And while some murders of white farmers have grabbed headlines for the shocking violence, Black South Africans often die in equally horrific circumstances and in higher numbers in one of the world's most violent countries. Even Afrikaners' rights groups have said they're more focused on fixing the situation in their country than leaving it. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa said it is completely false that Afrikaners are persecuted. Forgive me if I mispronounced your name. I didn't mean it. But in my head, not my heart. Quote, "This is my country," said Maurits Grobler, an Afrikaner who owns 1,000 acres where he farms corn, beans, cattle, and sunflowers in the town of Settlers. He's a 9th generation South African on his father's side and a 10th generation on his mother's. But I want y'all to pay attention to this. I'm going to kind of look at here. I'm going to blue this real quick because I want y'all to remember this part. He's a 9th generation South African on his father's side and 10th generation on his mother. I'm going to tell you how that plays. It's going to play a part in what's going on right now. But it's good to know that Trump will back us if ish happens. Farms like Grobler sit squarely at the intersection of land and race in South Africa, a crossroads of centuries of tension and sometimes violence over who really belongs and who really owns the land here. And Trump and Musk, it's a black and white story of black people taken from white people. Over the centuries, roles were reversed. A 1913 law allocated 93% of the country's lands to whites. A law. That's why I tell y'all, we got to understand the law. You got to study and understand the law. It's not about right or wrong. It's about what's the law. Slavery was a law back in the day until it became not a law, unless you like in prison or whatever. You get what I'm saying? Police used to be laws where police could say stop or I will shoot. And if you're running, they could legally shoot you in the back. That was a law. So again, it's not about right or wrong. It's about what saith the law. A 1913 law allocated 93% of the country's lands to whites, the descendants of European colonists who started moving into the territory when the Dutch East India Company arrived in 1652. That is 240, 30 years, give or take. By the early 20th century, when South Africa was part of the British Empire, white people made up about a fifth of the population. Now, check this out. Today, white people make up about 7% of South Africa's population of around 63 million. So you say, oh, only 7% of white people are amazing. But Afrikaners make up about 2/3 or around 3 million of the whites in the country. Afrikaners descend from Dutch, German, and other settlers and are known for being conservative and deeply religious. They speak the common language of Afrikaans and are often clad in their typical farmers' costumes of short khaki shorts. So let's say 2 or 3 million of these people are Afrikaners. And so you think about 3 million Afrikaners coming to this country, got the availability to come to this country. Can you imagine? That's a lot of dang on people. Despite the smaller population, white commercial farmers, most of them Afrikaners, still own about half of the country's land, producing some 90% of its avocados, corn, and other agricultural products. Much of that land was originally acquired by forcing out black subsistence farmers and herders. So you see what the issue is there. You got about 7% of your population own 90% of the land. What do they say? 10% of the people of the population controls 90% of the world's wealth. That, as you can see, goes across the board everywhere. Again, why would Afrikaners leave South Africa and come to this country? I'm just going to read a little bit more. Just a small percentage of Afrikaners have indicated that they are keen to take Trump up on his offer of refugee in the U.S., either by inquiring for more information or beginning the interview process. Many Afrikaners feel just as African as their black countrymen, despite vastly different socioeconomic statuses. The Trump offer refers specifically to Afrikaners, and a subsequent fact sheet refers to ethnic minority descendants of settler groups. I think it's nice here, Grobler said, sitting in the living room of his 1960s farmhouse with his wife Helena and the rolling green fields of his farm outside. It's not easy to leave all your friends and your family and pack up and leave, especially when you got it good. Since the end of apartheid in 1994, South Africa has been promising the land will be distributed more equitably. Since then, despite billions spent purchasing and redistributing land, the racial distribution of land in the country remains significantly unbalanced. But again, they want to act like it's something major. Lack of progress is part of the struggle to meet the economic goals set by the country. When then President Nelson Mandela's government resolved to rectify historical injustices, today nearly 2/3 of black South Africans still live in poverty, compared with 1% of white South Africans. I'm gonna let y'all read the rest of this article. I'm gonna put the link in the description box. If you don't have a subscription, then doggone it, they have a sale. You can get it and cancel at any time. But you need to understand what's going on in the world, because this stuff is affecting and will affect you. Now, let's see, turning over acres, story Grouse farm, turning acres. He was 30 years old and the family has been farming in what is now South Africa. Let me see, the story Grover's farm, peppered with interracial fellowship and interracial violence, is typical of South Africans' fraught history. The progenitor of the Groblers, John Grobler, arrived in Cape Town from Tangermoon, Germany in 1708 in search of a better life. He was 30 years old, and the family has been farming in what is now South Africa ever since. When he was a child, Martise Grobler and his father would erect rugby goal posts on the weekends, and he and his three brothers would separate 2-on-2, each pair teaming up with 10 or so children of the farm's black workers. The boys were all friends, says Grobler. Persistent racial and economic tension has at times blistered the surface. like I said, I'm gonna let y'all read the rest of this because it's a nice long article. I mean, it's a lot to it. But here's what I want to get to. One, you say only 59 people came, and people are like, that ain't a whole lot, it's just a few. But you saw where they said that there's gonna be more and more people coming over, over the next months or the next few years. You still might say that's not a lot. It's only a few, maybe a few hundred may end up here. What's the big deal? Do we remember how many settlers settled? I'm talking about Europeans came to this country the first time. If I'm not mistaken, it was around 50 something. And we're talking about what, 1555? And they brought like black folks over here with them to work the land. But yeah, I think it was about 50 something white people came from Europe to this country the first time to settle, to come over here and to settle over here. And now you see where the country is. My point is, them folk think about generations from today, not just today. The unfortunate part, the unfortunate issue is with our people that we unfortunately like maybe in financial situations to where we can only think about today or what we're gonna have for dinner tomorrow. We can think about the future, but we really can't prepare as we feel like as a collective, we can't prepare for future generations. But we have to find a way. These people are bringing, like I say, 50 some people here today, then it'll be 50 some people tomorrow. And before you know it, they might got like a little town. Think about like you got like places like what we call like Little Mexico, Little Korea, stuff like that. That's in your own city. I told y'all about I lived in Carrollton for a while. And when I first moved there, it was mainly, regular American citizens. But then now you go over there, there's a place where I believe it's like Middle Easterns. They may be Asians, I'm not really sure. But they had like this whole little section locked up to where they even got a bank over there. You know what I'm saying? But like there's a Walmart over there, but like most of the stores and businesses are owned by them. They even got a big spa where everybody goes to. And this is like within the past 20 years. You see what I'm saying? It's not, if you think you're going to sell cupcakes, cakes, and shea butter and go to vendor shows and going to become rich and a millionaire overnight, you sadly mistaken. If you don't have a plan to grow, to expand, and taking your money and investing it back into the company with your family, and you're all trying to grow the business in order to create a legacy with your name. If that is not the plan, you just spinning your wheels. Not saying you shouldn't do it. I mean, you got to make money, got to pay bills, got to live. I understand. But if you want something to happen, to be done about the discrepancy, the disparity in wealth and stuff, it won't be no time soon unless they give reparations in the form of cash payments. No time soon will the racial wealth gap ever shrink by a large enough margin for us to even realize it. But that's not what you should be looking forward to. You should look for that to be some generations down the line. But right now, you need to create a plan and implement it, and implement it to where you are building for your children, and so that your children and grandchildren can build off of that and grow something. And in order, so when 5 generations down, 200 years from now, your people got something. That's how you got to look at it. And I understand that they have created situations to where they try to keep us, poor, without money, in poverty. But how do you get out of that? It's always the question, I get tired of the marching, get tired of the complaining. How do you get out of that? And it's going to be tough. It's always tough starting at the bottom. But what you got to do is do something and not really worry about them. Just keep your head on swivel and keep your plans going. Don't put your plans out there in the street. So that way, by the time they see you, it's too late. By the time they see what you've done, it's too late. So y'all got the wheels turning, the ball rolling, and you have got to where you got a tree out there of people who building off of what you created. That's how you got to do it. Now, how do you do it? Go to school. Education is always the key. I don't give a damn what nobody tells you. In this world, in this country, education is the key. That's the start. Will you become super duper rich by being educated tomorrow? No. But you can live comfortably enough. You can get a career or business, educate yourself, make money, and then you reinvest into yourself, your family, your business, and you pass that down to the next generations, and they learn from you, and that's how you build. Everyone will not succeed. Some and many will fail, but you gotta try because doggone it, every white person in the country is not rich. I just say only a small amount of people have that money. So when I told y'all to remember when they talked about the guy, his family came over here in the 1700s. So like what I said, less than 300 years or 250, 206, 270 years ago, his family came over here, got a farm, and now they got 1,000-acre ranch that's been passed down for generations. That's what you got to look at. Now, again, I mean, I understand them folk, they get benefits, they get everything they want, and they keep us from doing it. But so you got to find something that maybe you're not going to get rich. Maybe you're not going to have 1,000 acres, but you get acres. And then you got to think about this too. One last thing. The show, what you call the show Yellowstone. I watched that and watched all the seasons. Didn't like the last half. The last half of the last season. I didn't like that. I guess because, something happened and Kevin Costner couldn't. Was it Kevin Costner? That's the name? Whoever the hell it was. He couldn't finish it out. But when you saw the story, they talk about even the 1882 and the 1790, the two prequels. They got the land. I don't know how they got it because I didn't watch those. But anyway, the land has been in their family for generations. And so Kevin Costner was fighting to keep it. But you have developers who want the land, going to build casinos, airports, all of that on that land. And there's nothing you can do about it. And so somehow in the end, they ended up not being able to sell the land because the son gave it to the Native Americans. So now it's like a national archive, something where you can't do nothing to the land. But they didn't have the land, but they either had to do that, but they had freedom to freedom to live there, freedom to go there whenever, but it wasn't their land anymore. The thing is, you can't keep anything forever. So I mean, like I say, if you want to farm and somehow they get you off your farm, okay, always stay with the modern technology and see how to move forward in the future. Stay ahead of the curve, at least stay with the curve. Don't fall behind. I mean, technology, what they got now, the Chat GTP, the Gemini, and stuff like that. Use that. Use that to your advantage to educate yourself on what's going on in the world and what's happening in the future, so that way you can stay abreast and not fall behind. And like I say, the next thing you know, everything done passed you up, and now you back in the hood and back in poverty, and you don't know what hit you. But like I say, these people are looking generations down the line. 59 a day can turn to, by the time next year hit, can turn to 120. And 120 can multiply to 500 in a matter of generations. Next thing it'll be thousands, and you keep bringing them over here. Next, it could be hundreds of thousands to millions of them, and all of them came from Dutch settlers in South Africa. But it doesn't matter, because now when they get to America and their kids are born, their children, grandchildren, so forth and so on, will be considered white Americans. Trump, in my opinion, is trying. Hell, Trump's great grandfather came from another country. But when they get over here, they feel they had a right to claim to be Americans and not immigrants, but they'll say it just to get their own people over here. They'll use it when it benefits them. Amazing. But anyway, Tell me what you think about the story. Leave your comments below. Share it with the world. Let's have intelligent conversation. You know how we do around here. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Those 4 things cost you maybe a couple of minutes out your day, but it means the world to us here. If you would like to support the channel financially, you can always give us super thanks, super chat, super stickers, and you can go to the description box. We got a couple of links there. You can get Zelle, PayPal, Cash App. You know the routine. Now, if you would like to get something tangible for your dollars, which a lot of people do, you can always go to marlonmorale.com. You can go to our Shopify store, or you can just simply hit the shop button below and check out all our luxury products. We have fragrances that last all day. We have pure, 100% pure silk products, handbags, beard products, and more. Check it out. You will not be disappointed. Hey, education is the key. Read, not just in school. Buy your own books and read. Educate yourself on the history, the present, and what's coming in the future. And teach your kids to do that. If your kids can recite the latest rap songs and can play Roblox all day and watch little really retarded YouTube videos, make them pick up a book and read something. Make them put, you know what I'm saying, print out some math sheets and learn and teach them, make sure they learn, teach them how to do some addition, subtraction, multiplying, and dividing. That is what's going to be important for them in the future when they get older and realize exactly how this country is ran. But anyway, with that being said, I leave you in peace, and I'll see you on the other side.